Advertise your business with TD1 Radio. Those numbers again, 01896 888 111. Or email info@td1radio.scot.
And when I was at Birkhill House, Lara asked me if I had visited the bird gardens at Oxton, to which I replied no, although I immediately guessed where she was referring to. A property alongside the A68 which I used to drive past on a regular basis, although not so much this year, as I've only been to Edinburgh twice since before the lockdown. I had a fascinating time when I was there being shown around by Owen, and one of the many highlights was being beside the flamingos as he fed them. More about that visit after this Manfred Mann classic.
On our block, all of the guys call her flamingo, 'cause her hair glows like the sun, and her eyes can light the skies when she walks. La 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 la, pretty flamingo. Someday I'll make her mine. Yes I will, yes I will, I'll make her mine.
After my guided tour, I asked Owen to explain a bit about the facility that was being created there.
I'm Owen Joyner, and I'm one of the directors here for Gardens Scotland, just north of Lauder in the Borders. Gardens Scotland we established as a community interest company here in the Borders, and we are focusing on two things: promoting a more sustainable way of living and the conservation of the natural world, focusing on birds, threatened bird species. We've got over 60 different breeds and species here of about 500 to 600 birds. It changes daily because things hatch, of course.
Next, I asked about the extent of the site.
So we've got 9 acres, and 7 acres of which we've put down to this new visitor attraction which we're developing. We've planted over 4,000 trees and increasing, and we're building ponds and planting hedgerows and fruit orchards and things like that, so it develops and changes regularly.
And what about utilities and services for the site?
Yeah, so we're really excited by the visitor centre. We're going off-grid completely. It's a straw bale build, which is amazing insulation, and we've got a borehole in, which when we hit water, we certainly hit water, and we're installing solar PV and battery storage as a power source. Yeah, we had a septic tank rolling around the car park for about a year, but it's in now and ready to function.
How had all the restrictions resulting from the attempts to control coronavirus affected the plans?
Yeah, so we wanted to be finished and functioning by the end of March this year, but of course March is when it all exploded and went a bit crazy. So we've used lockdown wisely. We've built the visitor centre ourselves pretty much, which is quite an achievement. We're quite proud of ourselves for that, and if we can have it finished and in an openable state by the end of November, we'll be pleased.
My principal reason for wishing to include this feature in Lunchtime Review related to their crowdfunding appeal, which is nearing the end, so next Owen spoke about that, and I wondered if the crowdfunder was associated with running costs.
No, actually the running costs are just bird feed, and we've got some amazing sources of food coming in. The running costs at the moment are thankfully quite low, so we can postpone opening until we've got some certainty with coronavirus without risking Gardens Scotland. No, the crowdfunder is to plug the deficit in the material costs for the building itself and the play area, and coming through the planning process, the building developed in terms of functionality, which has been an asset to the building. It's a much better building that we're creating in terms of visitor attraction, and the deficit that we're needing to plug is that change in design coming through the planning process.
So what about maintenance costs such as the solar panels and sustainability?
No, the occasional bit of bird poo to wipe off, but the rain does that generally, yeah. So no, the sustainability thing we're really excited about promoting. It's the way forward in terms of environmental conservation and looking after ourselves and the planet, and we really want to work with volunteers in schools here with orchards and beekeeping and growing your own, that kind of sustainable, simple approach, but high impact if it's done collectively.
And current plans regarding preparations for opening?
If we can open Easter onwards, then that would be fantastic, and that gives us time to really get the grounds in order in terms of health and safety and adequate seating for people who need seating and these elements of the build. So it gives us time to finish the building properly, get the snagging list actually done, and be ready to welcome people when the weather improves next spring. When people come to see the flamingos, obviously it's very tempting to get a little bit closer than perhaps is safe in terms of the pond, so we just want to make sure that kids getting excited to see birds and being inspired by what they're looking at and hearing and seeing that they're safe in doing all those things. The weather is something that we are going to let Mother Nature deal with. There are areas of the pond that are deep because the flamingos in particular, unless they can actually swim, they never take their weight off their legs, off their feet, so you need to have a deep enough area that they can actually get the weight off their legs and swim, and that's really important to their own physical health. We're working with environmental health and safety and elements of the Borders Council. We've got some really great contacts who are being really supportive with us, and we'll just take their advice, and then we know that we're doing everything as compliantly as we can.
And finally, I asked about details of the crowdfunding appeal and other funding options.
So the crowdfunder is, we are just blown away by local support and people who support bird gardens who are further afield. Local community as well has been fantastic. The crowdfunder is to plug the deficit in material costs, and then we'll do the work ourselves on the visitor centre and the play area, and this will create a recreational green space that people can come and learn and be inspired about whilst enjoying the relaxing company of some pretty amazing birds. It's visitor centre and play area on the crowdfunder page. So while the local community and our friends and family have been amazingly supportive, we would like to encourage 30 local businesses who have been able to trade during lockdown, and we'd like to encourage and invite them to join us by sponsoring or contributing £1,000 corporate donation. And if we can achieve 30 local contributions to that degree, then we can finish this properly, adequately, and be ready to go in the spring and welcome visitors.
And now some other audio clips that I captured during my tour. First of all, some black swans. Then emus, although their distinctive throat rumblings weren't picked up all that well by my microphone. Kookaburras. Ducks splashing about whilst being fed. And Inca terns. It was hard to pick a favourite, but certainly the Inca terns were absolutely wonderful to be able to be so close up to. And Owen said that rather quickly, so just in case you didn't catch that, the crowdfunding page is crowdfunder.co.uk/visitor-and-children's-play-area. So that's crowdfunder.co.uk, visitor centre and children's play area, with dashes in between the words. And that crowdfunder is due to end on the 15th of November. So if you wish to help, get yourself straight over there. And now for more birdsong, this time courtesy of the marvellous Saint Saviour.